Hi and welcome to module number 1 on introducing cloud architecting. This is Amazon Cloud Architecting certification exam. So we are going through the knowledge check questions. You might find answers to the questions, but we are trying to explain the right answers and giving you the justifications for the wrong answers as well. So I hope it would help you in understanding the course. We'll try to record all 16 modules in this one so that you can easily pass the certification exam. So let's start the first question on our knowledge check. It says that what's the best definition of a cloud architecture? So the best definition is applying cloud characteristics to a solution that uses cloud services and features to meet technical and business requirements. Now, the reason is that it focuses on leveraging cloud scalability, elasticity, and managed services to design optimized solutions. Now let's go through the other answers one by one, that why they are not the right answers. So if we'll read the first option, which was over here, saying that combining front-end and back-end software and components to create highly available and scalable web services that meets the needs of an organization. That's wrong because it describes the application design, not overall cloud architecture. Now, we are not selecting the second option, which is saying relocating traditional on-premises data centers to internet accessible data centers that a vendor manages. That's also wrong because it refers to migration, not architecture. Then we are not selecting the third one also. It's saying that designing the application in cloud-based shared IT infrastructure by using virtual machines and fault-tolerant data stores in the cloud. It's wrong also because it's too narrow, ignores broader architectural design principles. Now, if you'll read question number 2, it says that the well-architected framework has 6 pillars. 3 of the pillars are security, operational excellence, and sustainability. What are the 2 other pillars of well-architected framework? So they are cost optimization and reliability. Cost optimization because it focuses on managing resources efficiently to minimize the cost, and reliability because it ensures workload recovery quickly and consistently from failures. Now, we didn't select governance. The reason is that it's part of AWS Cloud Adoption Framework. It's not a well-architected pillar. And then we are not selecting privacy since it's covered under the security pillar, not a standalone pillar. And we are not selecting risk management because it's a general organizational function, not one of the 6 pillars. Question number 3 says that which actions are consistent with the operational excellence pillar or AWS Well Architected Framework? So there are 2 answers for this one. First of all, we'll select review and improve the processes and procedures on a continuous cycle. The reason is it promotes continuous improvement. And then the second answer is applying software engineering principles and methodology to infrastructure as a code. The reason is that it encourages automation and operational consistency. Now let's read the other answers. For example, evaluate organizational structures and roles to identify skill gaps. It's not right because it's related to HR governance and not operational excellence. And then we are not selecting ensure operational personnel document changes to the infrastructure because manual processes are not aligned with automated best practices. And we are not selecting the third option, which says plan and manage the full life cycle of the hardware assets, since it refers to the physical IT management, not cloud operations. Question number 4 says a specific application requires a front-end web tier, multiple servers that communicate with the back-end application tier of multiple servers. Which design most closely allows AWS best practices? So design the web tier to communicate with the application tier through the ELB, which is Elastic Load Balancer service. So the reason is that it promotes scalability, loose coupling, and fault tolerance. Now let's try to understand the other options. Assign a dedicated application server and a dedicated connection to each web server is not the right answer since it creates tight coupling and it limits the scalability. We are not selecting create a mesh network between the web application tier so that each web server can communicate directly with every application server. That's not right as well, since it adds complexity and is inefficient. And we are not selecting the option of create multiple instances that each combine a web front end and application backend in the same instance. The reason is that it breaks multi-tier design and reduces flexibility. Question number 5 says a solution architect is developing process for handling server failures. Which process most closely follows AWS best practices? So the right answer for this one is a CloudWatch detects a system failure. It initiates automation to provision a new server. It explains it because it implements monitoring and automatic recovery for high availability. And if we'll see the other options like the first one, the operations staff would detect the system failure. They initiate automation to provision a new server. Now that's not right, since it's a manual detection and it might cause delays. The second option is that Amazon CloudWatch detects a system failure. It notifies the system administrator who provisions a new server by using AWS Management Console. Again, there is no automation involved in it, and it's based on the notifications. And we are not selecting the third option. Also, it says the operations staff detects the system failure. They notify the system administrator who provisions a new server by using AWS Management. Again, fully manual, not automated. Question number 6 says a company is considering moving their on-premises data center to the cloud. Their primary motive is to increase their cost efficiency. Which approach most closely follows AWS best practice? So it's the last option, which says provision the servers that are needed and stop the services when they are not being used. The reason is it aligns with pay-as-you-go and elasticity principles to reduce the costs. Now, the provision some of the servers in the cloud and ensure the server runs 24/7 is not right, because running constantly wastes resources and cost. And then we are not selecting replicate their own on-premises data center in the cloud is also right. Is not right because it copies inefficiencies on on-premises infrastructure. And then we are not selecting the option of maintain the on-premise data centers as long as possible. Reason is it prevents cost optimization benefit of the cloud. Question number 7 is a company stores read-only data in Amazon S3. Most users are in the same country as the company headquarters. Some users are located around the world. Which design decision most closely follows AWS best practice? So it's use a bucket in the AWS region that is closest to the company headquarters. All users access the data through AWS Cloud Front. The reason is that it ensures low latency and global availability through the content delivery network, which maintains the cost efficiency. Now we didn't select the first option, which says that use a bucket in the region that has the lowest average latency for all users. The reason is that latency varies by geography. CloudFront handles the optimization in a better way. And then we didn't select the second one. It says use a bucket in the region closest to the company headquarters. The reason is it doesn't optimize access to for global users without a CDN. And we didn't select the third option, which says that replicate object across buckets in AWS region around the world. Users access the bucket in the region closest to them. The reason is that it increases storage cost and management complexity unnecessarily. Question number 8 says that a consultant must access large object in an S3 bucket. They need 1 day to access the file. Which method for granting access most closely follows the AWS best practice? So the answer for this one is to create a predefined URL to the object that expires in 24 hours and give it to the consultant. Now that provides secure temporary access with a limited duration and scope. So that's why that's the right answer. We are not selecting the first choice, which says that create a user account for the consultant, grant the user account permissions to access the S3 bucket and the AWS Management Console. The reason is that it's unnecessary and risky for short-term access. And then the second option was to copy the object to the new S3 bucket, enable public access on the bucket, and from the new bucket, get the object URL and give it to the consultant. Again, it's not a good choice since it would provide public access which would violate the security best practices. And the third choice was to enable the public access on S3 bucket, which would give the object URL to the consultant. Again, it exposes the data publicly and is not secure. Question number 9 says, which are main considerations that influence which AWS region to use? So the first answer could be compliance with the laws and regulations. It ensures that data residency and compliance requirements are met according to regional legal standards. The second choice is latency reduction for end users. It improves application performance by choosing region geographically closer to the users. So let's see the other options. Application resiliency during system failures is not the right option since it's managed at the availability zone level and not regional selection. We are not going for security and access control. The reason is it's consistent across all AWS regions and managed through IAM, not a region choice. And then we are not selecting protection against localized natural disasters. The reason for that is that it's addressed within the region by using multiple availability zones, not by selection of different regions. And finally, the last question for module number 1, which says, what are the main considerations that influence which availability zone to use? So there are two answers for this one: protection against localized natural disasters. Now that would provide physical separation and fault isolation. And then the second right answer is application resiliency during system failures. The reason is that it would ensure failover capability for high availability. Now, we didn't select compliance with laws and regulations. The reason is a region level consideration and it's not a availability zone level consideration. And then latency reduction for end users is not the right option since it's handled through regions and edge servers, not availability zone. And then finally, security and access control is not the right option because it's managed by IAM and networking and is unrelated to availability zone choice. So that was our module number 1 on introducing cloud architecting.